Luke Beasley was given David Pakman's credentials to go to the presidential debate, and he got an opportunity to question 3 of Donald Trump's VP candidates, and it's exactly as dumb as you think it would be. First up is Elise Stefanik. Sorry, Elise, you're not really being considered. You're just on the list because we know why you're on the list.
If you became Trump's vice president, obviously one of the things that has been pointed out, I think on the debate stage, is that Trump tried to get Pence to not certify the election results. Is that something that you agree with or don't agree when it comes to Pence's decision?
I stood up for the Constitution. I had concerns, and I believe that there was unconstitutional overreach in the 2020 election, as the majority of Americans agree with.
Aren't courts supposed to determine that?
The court, it goes to the state legislatures, and in the state of Pennsylvania, they circumvented the state legislature,
I'm saying,
which is unconstitutional.
in terms of the constitutionality, the courts disagree with you, right?
What is it with this MAGA movement where they think saying unconstitutional means it's unconstitutional? The courts disagree. It's not unconstitutional. Why is Elise Stefanik still up here repeating the same tired lies that we've heard for 4 years? It's because they don't have anything real to run on, and that'll be evident as Elise Stefanik refuses to answer Luke Beasley's questions and just moves on.
Answer your question. 2020, people understand that this election was unconstitutional, and they understand that the attacks on democracy are by Democrats who are illegally weaponizing the Department of Justice, the radical district attorney's office, who are, that's a form of...
So no evidence of that, but it sounds like you are saying that you would go along with an anti-democratic attempt to block the peaceful transfer of power.
Before is I disagree with Mike Pence's approach. I stood on the House floor and I stood up for the Constitution and election integrity. I stand by that position, and the American people, that's one of the reasons why they support Donald Trump, because he supports the Constitution.
And like all good MAGA foot soldiers, she's out. She's not going to stick around and wait for a follow-up question. She did a great job avoiding answering that question, told us about her feelings, and then she got the fuck out. Moving on to something that the right loves, a scammer, a pump and dumper, somebody who doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about, but they've got a lot of money, and so MAGA believes them. Vivek Ramaswamy.
Attacks against Trump is commonly he wouldn't uphold the Constitution. What's your response to that?
My response to that is that's a lot of projection from the people who are making the accusations.
Does it bother you that he called for the termination of the Constitution?
He did not call for the termination of the
massive fraud of this type actually allows the termination of all rules, regulations, articles, even though it's found in the Constitution?
Cite for me one time where Donald Trump called for the termination of the Constitution.
I'm reading it to you right now.
He's never called for the termination of the Constitution.
Massive fraud of this type
But here's what I believe. I'm going to answer this question before I go to the next interview.
Now, this trick is actually kind of slick, and it's something Vivek does all the time. When Vivek doesn't want to answer a question, he sets it up and says, hold on just a second, let me get this one thing out, and then I've got to move on. And that gives him the opportunity to make a statement that doesn't have to make sense, because he's already said he's going to move on. No follow-up questions. We don't do that to MAGA. We don't ask follow-up questions to MAGA. We know better than that.
Well, what I do believe is there's the projection of the people who do call for the termination of the Constitution and their behaviors want to take the decisions away from the voters. And never in American history have we seen the wielding of prosecutorial power to try to eliminate a candidate in the middle of an election while you had extrajudicial means of removing them from the ballot.
But I do want to start with...
Question before you head out.
And last but not least is the high confidence, low information Byron Donalds, who does everything he can to be offended and not answer a single question, and like everybody else, then he dipped.
That I didn't hear an answer that was super clear from Trump on is so many people, dozens of people who left his administration, very different than Biden's administration, have said, this guy's not fit to be president. Yeah, it's right here. He can do it. This guy's not fit to be president. Yeah, it's right here. He can do it. Good man. So how do you explain that? So many people in the room for the most important decision saying this guy can't be anywhere close to the White House.
Well, first of all, let's say this. When you fire people, whether it's an administration or even out of a company, and I've noticed this in politics, political people don't think they should ever be fired, even when they're doing a bad job. A lot of times, which frustrates the American people, is political people fail and then they get promoted. And that's frankly what pisses a lot of people off. So if Donald Trump looked at people who were working for him eearly on and got rid of them and they have an axe to grind, I can't be concerned about
like
that.
Pence or all those people.
Or am I going to answer?
I give you a good amount of time.
Let me answer. Let me get to this.
Can you answer the question, though?
You ready? Here we go. Now, Alejandro Mayorkas is a failure. Our border is wide open. Tony Blinken is a failure. Israel is embroiled in war. Ukraine is embroiled in war. Pete Buttigieg, this dude took off for a month. Nobody even knew he was gone.
You're not talking about Trump's administration officials.
Are you talking or am I talking?
Taking a long route to it.
Bro, I know on your side...
Mike Pence. Let's go with just Mike Pence.
On your side, I know you guys will just use talking points, but when you get... complicated answer. Be patient and let me give it to you.
I want to hear Mike Pence, other administration officials, then I'm ready.
You go over there, and then when you're ready to have a conversation, come see me. Yes.
I'm ready.
Nobody should be surprised that these are the responses that we got from Republicans, but also nobody should vote for these morons. Nobody should believe these morons. At this point, it's just a group of people hoping that somehow everything's going to turn out and they were going to be right all along. Spoiler alert, you're not.